Well, good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. Before I call the meeting to order, I do want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon on the day of the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either via telephone or Zoom from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each agenda item. The public comment will be allowed should be limited to the item at hand per the commission rules of procedure, should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee for March 31st, 2025 to order, and would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Wakes.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Stites. Townsend. Burrows.
Here. Thank you, everyone. And Mr. Wakes, welcome, BPU. Appreciate you being here this evening. Clerk, thank you. Are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
There are no revisions.
Thank you. Committee, we have 2 items for discussion this evening. The 3 items, I stand corrected, 3 items this evening. The first one is the approval of minutes. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of minutes. Those minutes are from April 1st, 2024. If you haven't had a time to review them, we can allow a few minutes to review them. But as soon as that's done, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Let's move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from April 1st, 2024. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. The first item up this evening is the resolution. It's authorizing the 6th Amendment to the development agreement for the Legends West Lawn. Or paving, and this involves the paving and striping improvements required at Legends West Lawn, or alternatively establishes certain deadlines for the redevelopment of the parcel located at 1824 Village West Parkway. I believe that is the unpaved area next to the Monarch Stadium, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Thank you. Additionally, the 6th Amendment contemplates repairs and improvements to the common area of the project prior to April 1st, 2026. Committee, I will now recognize Chelsea Chisholm, our Economic Development Director, for presentation and remarks. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you. Also with me tonight is Todd LaSala, counsel for the UG, and then Mr. Katz representing the developer. He can address any questions that you may have from the developer perspective. I think Todd has a nice overview prepared to give you some history and outline the changes in this amendment.
Okay, that's right. Commissioners, Todd LaSala from Stinson. Very brief overview. As our chairman said, this is entirely about the gravel lot that is unpaved and the paving obligations that have been in this development agreement for quite some time. The deadline to pave this lot is come and gone, so it's overdue. We are here for yet another amendment about extending the dates. I'll articulate exactly what the new dates would be first, and then talk about how we've changed the consequences if these dates were missed. We think this is really the final time that we'll be here asking for an extension, and you'll see why in just a moment. The dates would be extended to April 1st if by April 1st, the developer does not bring in a contract for sale or a lease for this lot, a year from, I'm sorry. 26. Did I say 25? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You're right. Commissioners, it's my fault. The deadline would be extended to April 1st of 2026, a year from tomorrow. If by that date, the developer has not produced a contract or a lease for that lot, then they have the obligation to pay. They have 60 days from that point to pay. If by July 1st, the UG Commission has not approved a plan for that lot, a final development plan for that lot, then they have 60 days from that to pay. And then ultimately, if they haven't commenced construction on that lot for this alternative use by September 1st of 2026, then they have 60 days, okay? So it's sort of, we have added more deadlines here, and it's because we want to specifically know, not just when they start this, we wanted to set deadlines for the contract, deadlines for approval of the plan, and deadlines for commencement. If the developer fails to produce the use that they hope to, or they fail to pave on time, our development agreement previously said that they had an obligation to pay us $500,000. We, in this iteration of the amendment, demanded security. And we kind of went back and forth about what security means. We ultimately landed on the developer will pay us the $500,000 liquidated damage penalty upfront. So we're going to get, when we signed this, we're going to get that money, we're going to hold on to that money, and if the developer fails to meet these deadlines, we keep it. So that's why we feel very confident that this is the last time that we'll be here. We don't have to chase them. We don't have to sue them for that money. We are holding the $500,000 of liquidated damages as security. There are some details in here about the developer's ability to draw on that money if and to the extent they ever have to pave that lot, which is not their hope. There are also some provisions about what is to happen if part of that lot is developed, but not all of it. And it's really that you prorate the payment to $250. There is also a provision that we think is important toward the end of this amendment that says by April 1st of 2026, the developer needs to spend $2.3 million to refresh the center. And when you look at the Exhibit L, you'll see specifically where that money is to go. We like this date because it's before the World Cup. We think there are some improvements needed to the center, and the developer has agreed to spend $1.15 million on parking lots, sidewalks, and concrete repairs and replacements, $500,000 to replace a roof, and $650,000 to repair an elevator, escalator, panel, and fountain repair. That all amounts to $2.3 million, and the deadline for that is April 1st of 2026. So that's what's in the amendment. That's what it's about. Happy to answer any questions either now or after you hear from Mr. Katz, the representative of the owner and developer.
Thank you, Todd. Before we get started, could you clarify a few things that we're trying to write down? I know a few of us were.
Sure.
The fountain, what did you say? The fountain, the striping of the parking lot?
Sure. If you start, there are really three components to the $2.3 million they've agreed to center improvements. One is parking lot, sidewalk, and concrete, $1.15 million. There's a roof replacement that is needed that is $500,000. And then the final component is elevator, escalator, panel, and fountain repairs and replacements. That's approximately $650,000.
And I'm assuming when you say fountain, that's the big fountain that's out.
I believe so. Is that right, Rick? Yeah.
Okay.
Big fountain.
Thank you. And that just needed that clarification. Committee, any questions? Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, sir, I'm sorry, is your name Mr. Katz?
Yeah, Rick Katz,
AATS?
KATZ. I've been on the project since the day it started.
Okay, so how long is this? Well, I'll get to that in a minute. where's all the money been going that the stores pay each month, the 20,000, give or take, each month on top of their rent? Where's that money been at?
First of all, I'm with the Katz Law Firm, so I'm an outside attorney. So I can't tell you specifically where the money went. But as I understand the real estate market these days, because I am involved in that all the time, it's, the money probably came at different times than when it was needed and gradually was used to pay expenses. That's all I can tell you.
Well, this was last year up to now, even last January, February, were we March now? Yeah, March. It's recent. That's hard to kind of make a decision when they're not here with to answer those questions. So, Mr. Todd LaSalle, how long does this 500,000 liquidated damage, how long does that go back from day one?
Commissioner, not quite day one. That's been in the document since the third, I believe it's the third amendment, which was September of 2021. It was originally a naked obligation. It was in the development agreement. Without that security, frankly, that obligation showed up because we had to disperse the final portion of the bond funds. And so we said, look, there can be a new deadline, but there's got to be liquidated damages if it doesn't happen. So I think it first appeared in the document September 30 of 2021. And Commissioner, we have extended the deadline 3 times. There has been three amendments before this one that have been about pushing that date.
That's interesting. So to get some questions answered, it's kind of hard to make a decision. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
Yeah, Todd, maybe you said it and I didn't hear it. Why is it taking so long from April 1st of this year till next year to get it done?
Mr. Katz is welcome to weigh in here too. When we talked to the development team about the amount of time that they needed, they are negotiating with a specific user they really like. They need time to negotiate that lease. They think it's going to take some time. And I think the concern is that if this user were not to sign, they would have to start over. So to be fair, I think they're giving themselves plenty of time to produce the document. And then once you get to April 1st of 2026, I think the process from there is kind of our process, right? A few months to get in front of the commission with a final plan, a few months from there to commence. But you're probably asking about why would it take a year to negotiate a lease? And Mr. Katz.
I can answer some of this. In that situation, I think we had a hotel that we were planning on putting in. And it took us a long time to negotiate that. I think the transaction fell through. And so obviously what we don't want to do is pave this lot and then tear the paving out. And Todd and I've had 100 calls about that. And we just don't want to keep replacing the lot. I mean, we would pave it, you know, if it had a use, we would have paved it a long time ago. But what we needed was, or what we were doing is negotiating with users, and the users were going to just tear it back out. So it was going to be a huge waste of money. And then, you know, even as of now, we have a new user that is coming, and I think you'll be pleased with the user. We are working on the site plan with them, and that's why we're this time very willing to put the $500,000 up to show good faith and to show our intent to proceed. So, you know, if not, I can't promise you I wouldn't come back to you and say, you know, now we got a different user And we're trying hard to make certain that this isn't just a complete waste of money, which it would be. We'd pave it, and then it would just be torn out.
So really, at the very latest, it'd be September of 26.
So that's,
Before this thing might get completed.
yeah, but at that point, I think we might have an actual user building on it. So I think that's what you want, more than anything, is for the place to be.
You could build a bridge faster than that.
Well, I know, but we want to do the development and not have to repeat doing it.
I think we also heard the developer say they have a desire to do it faster than that. That year is really about an outside date. It's a deadline, and we pushed them pretty hard about the remedy, right? I told them we wanted to hold the cash, and that remedy is pretty significant. And so I think our developer responded by saying, okay, I need plenty of time, right? Like if you're going to hold the cash, I'm losing that money if I don't get it done. I think there may be some fat in that schedule because he wants adequate time to make sure he's not going to lose that money and that he's going to get it done in that time. He would tell you if he were sitting here, he has a desire to do it faster than that.
Well, that may make sense to all of you, but when the average citizen comes up and asks, why? We have to have answers.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And it's a long time. You're right. A year is a long time.
Commissioner Stites.
Stites District 7. So I guess, Todd, if you could on it's been pushed back 3 different times. What was the reasons for the pushback?
Yeah.
What was the reasons for pushing it out the other 3 times?
You may remember, Commissioner, I can't remember which time we had folks come with them who talked about the Monarchs deal that they wanted to do out there that involved a hotel. And there was an ambitious project that was out there that I think we were interested in, we liked and wanted to see if it would materialize, and it ultimately has not. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rick, but I believe every other time we've extended this, we've been talking about that deal and hoping that deal would materialize.
And each time that was pushed out, what was the period of time that it was pushed out?
It was about a year. Yeah, it was about a year in each case.
So I would say, and this is my opinion, that a year to negotiate a deal, and if they're already in communication with a user right now, I don't know if you're in the LOI stage or where you're at, or I would think that a year is a more than generous amount of time, and I would think that that's too much time, in my opinion. I think it should be narrowed down, to be honest with you, 6 months. I think that setting out there, if you can't get a deal done in 6 months, probably need to look at a different deal. That's my opinion right now. I'm not sure. I'm a little frustrated that we don't have the answers, like I think Commissioner Lopez was alluding to, that why were these things not repaired in the past, right? And I think the answer that you gave is the money came in at different times. That's not unusual. So I don't know if they're mismanaging their money, because what happens is that you put that money into a pot, and then when those maintenance items come due, you pay for them. So I'm a little bit confused as to, and I would like to, honestly, I'd like to have been able to ask the people that have those answers. But I appreciate you attempting to, give an answer for sure. And I know you had limited information regarding it. So, but that's a little bit frustrating.
I can feel fairly certain that the money comes into the CAM budget and is used for the CAM. It's not used for other things because we can't.
Mr.
You know,
Could you speak into the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please? So thank you.
I can be relatively certain. I mean, I don't review the CAM budgets and I don't review the CAM receipts, but I can tell you that it would be improper for the CAM money to be used for any other purpose than CAM. So there may have been more CAM than they could, or more expenses than they could cover with the CAM budget. So they can't use it, because I've done half the leases. They can't, use this money for any purpose other than those purposes that are listed in leases, which have to do with repairing the shopping center. So the money didn't go anywhere else.
Right, well, I appreciate that.
It's
I
just,
will tell you that the parking lot, I drive through there every single day. I'm out there every day. Lived it just down the street. I would think that, items, that like a parking lot would probably fall on high priority, in my opinion, and a roofing leak. That's easy to say, right? A leaking roof. I would have thought would have been, addressed early on. Well, I don't know, and I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, that you're assuring is that they are not being used on other nefarious things. That's not what I was implying. I'm just wanting to know, I mean, we don't set that CAM amount. That amount is set by the management company, and if they're not setting an amount that covers these items, I mean, that's kind of it's not my fault, right?
yeah,
I mean, they need to set an amount of a CAM that covers these.
I agree with you,
Those
except that the amount of CAM is set by the number of tenants and the amount of money that comes in. So if it's been a tough year, if it's tough years in real estate, which it is, that, there are more vacancies than we want to have, and thus the CAM budget has to be reduced because that's all the money that's there. So, and that's what's happened, at least I think,
Sure.
from my experience in other centers, but I haven't been briefed on the budget
Yeah.
and how much the budget
Well,
was.
And
I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that I don't know that.
yeah, and I mean, I understand that, I mean, as you've said, you don't review the CAM budget. So, I mean, it makes it tough. I mean, I'd like to know where those dollars went, to be honest with you. Okay,
Well,
that's all got for now.
I think we're committing now, absolutely, one way or another. Matter of fact, we're committing, Walton is committing to paying for these amounts. So it's not going to be they're going to commit, they're going to do the things that are here. They're going to,
We can't hear you back here.
I'm sorry,
Got a fan back here.
I'm not a very experienced committee person, but, I mostly just do deals. So what I was saying is that the real estate market has not been great, and there may have been vacancies. And again, I'm hypothecating. There may have been vacancies, and as a result of those vacancies, the budget was lower. And as a result of the budget being lower, there was less CAM done. However, in this document, we are specifically agreeing to accomplish those things that are listed. So I think the parking lots will be fixed. I think, all these various things will be fixed. I was told today that the elevator's already been started.
I think they actually started that, last week.
Yeah,
Through there.
yeah, and that they have, that the roof on Building H has started, and that they're doing the parking lot this spring, 750, I don't know what they're saying, they're part of the parking lot this spring. So,
Can I continue? So, so is regarding the 1 year to the 6 month, I mean.
well, it's just that long enough to make sure we can finish the deal with the people, because that part I can talk to. I mean, a year to finish a deal is not an unusual amount of time in this market. The market is awful. So, we have to admit to the circumstances of the day. And so I mean, I don't know about Todd, but I'm doing a lot less deals than I was last year, a year before, and 2 years from that. So as the market refurbishes here. And we do have 2 new tenants that we're announcing. You know, it'll start to get back in budget. And there's a lot to redo now. I mean, as we all know, it's a huge center. It's been a huge contributor to Kansas City, Kansas for a long time.
I didn't,
It's a huge contributor in terms, the shopping center.
the center.
Yeah, and it's been a huge contributor and draw to Kansas City, Kansas, and so it's just, times are not as good as they were. And now they're getting better and perhaps things will get back in budget, but Walton is, I'm not a member of Walton, but Walton is committing to doing these things in the document itself.
And I appreciate that. I wish as a, someone that, when you're referring to as Walton, I wish they would have identified these, shortcomings of maintenance issues in the past and not let us get to this point. And said, you know what, we own a center here and we owe it to the people of Wyandotte County to make sure that the roof's not leaking, the elevator's fixed, the escalator's fixed, and that the parking lot doesn't have holes in it, long before a time that comes to where we're having to ask for more. That's all.
Understand.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, first of all, let's talk about that lot. Why don't you guys just pave the lot and whoever uses it, whatever damage is done, make them pay. Say, hey, listen, you use this lot, and when you damage it, you gotta fix it.
It wouldn't work that way. The lot would have to be torn out.
We'll make them do it. It don't matter, just make them do it. That way you don't come out of your pocket. I mean, anytime I'm on a job, we tear somebody's yard up or we tear anything up, we gotta fix it.
And I'd love to be able to make deals like that, but can't always get that done. I mean, we're asking people to come to the center at a time that it's hard to bring people to the center. So I don't know. I'm not negotiating that transaction, so I don't know specifically, but it's a good idea if it could get done.
Right, now, the infrastructure, now this is just ballpark of me doing my homework out there, because I've talked to every store out there. What they're bringing in a month is a little over 2.1 million just off of their renters. Now, I'm not even talking about their rent. I'm just talking about what they're hit on top. And that brings it to about almost 25.5 million a year. And then where's all the CID money they've been getting? Where's that money at? And then, you know, I mean, I could go to a racetrack and jump jumps, you know, but this thing is, I mean, some of the holes and potholes and then there's managers, there's ladies that are managers at stores that when they get off work, half the lights in the parking lot don't work and they have to walk in the dark to their car. So maybe I don't know why them other stores are heading out and moved out, like, you know, hey, we're getting hit with this money and nothing's getting done. And then the roof, is that Dave and Buster's or Cavender's that they're fixing? Because both them roofs leak when it rains.
You know more than I do, obviously,
Wow.
on that. I mean, I don't know which ones are leaking.
Commissioner, this is Todd LaSala. The one part of your question that I know I can speak to is about the CID money, because you're right, there was a CID issued here, and that part of it I know is money that was spent on specific improvements. All of that money had to be spent within a 3-year window of time that I think ended in 2020. I think those bonds were issued in 2018. And so I think by the end of 2020, all of that CID money was spent on specific improvements that were all completed by the end of 2020. So that money's gone. I can't speak to everything else that you said there about CAM and so forth. I don't know, but the CID piece I do know.
So I'm calling it the basically HOA dues is basically how I'm making a note on it, but that's a lot of do-re-mi in 1 year and can't fix anything. Because I know each store is responsible for their utility bills, so that's not on them. But that's, do you know if there's any code violations from the codes department?
No, I don't.
Either. Do you know?
I asked Chelsea Chisholm, I asked staff to go take a look at the site, and so I've just been waiting for that list of anything that they've identified. We will certainly share that with developer.
And again, it's hard for me to make a decision when we can't get the right answers. But thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Katz, this $500,000 that you will deposit into an escrow account is my understanding. If you don't meet the guidelines as stated in the contract, that 500,000 reverts to us. They have a year in which to remedy that parking lot either through a sale or through, I guess, pavement. if they
Paving,
wanted to
that's
pave
right.
it.
Either way,
Either way, it reverts back to us.
that's correct.
That the CAM charges that have been referred to, there's, as you stated, Mr. Katz, there's a lot of empty storefronts out there that could be used. That's CAM charges that could be charged that aren't being charged and collected.
Exactly.
I know I spent 4 hours out there last Friday. We took a number of photos on things that I would state need to be addressed, including parking lot, curbs, fascias. There's some items out there that need to be repaired for safety reasons. I believe that the CAM charges should have gone for those things. I can't explain why they haven't been, but I know that we are in a major tourism district, and that generates the sales tax that supports this community. And we as a community deserve to have better than what's occurring out there in reference to shopping experience and destination facilities for people to come in and enjoy the day and spend their money accordingly. It won't take but one or two slip and falls or trips out there, and those items could have been paid for. I won't go through a litany of things that need to be addressed. I'm just a little perplexed that $2.3 million being proposed is going to be enough money to do it. That's a tremendous amount of parking lot out there with the damage that we've seen in reference to maybe a few trees being down and curbs being tore up, the landscaping washing into the roadway because the curbs have deteriorated. Maybe those can be addressed fairly simply, but when you're talking about paving that monstrous parking area out there, and then repairing a roof, and I don't know what building, how big a roof is, if it's a big building like Cavender's or one of the other larger buildings, 500,000. I know what we have paid to have a parking lot paved in one of our facilities. That's not probably 1/18 the size of the parking lot at the Legends, and I know what that cost us. I'll leave it up to the committee as to the direction we want to go. The 500,000, Todd, I appreciate, getting that into an escrow account, hold the feet to the fire. I would just strongly encourage, for whatever reason, that the CAM is not being utilized or collected properly, get those storefronts filled. Hash House A Go-Go that was there when it was first opened is still vacant. It's been vacant for 20 years. And there hasn't been anyone else go in there. And I've had a litany of excuses expressed to us as a committee as to why nobody can go in there, but it's still part of the development. When I see other retail facilities around this community, particularly out western Wyandotte County, in some of the smaller areas, and look at Oak Park Mall and see the nice paved parking lots and the striping and the landscaping that I see out there, our community deserves no less than that. I don't care who the management contract company is out there, we deserve to be treated with first-class mentality, same as other communities. And I would hope that that would be taken into consideration as we move forward as to how we can put lipstick on that organization out there, if I may. Committee, any other questions? Any other comments? Commissioner Stites, did you raise your finger?
That's District 7 again. Actually, I think that Hash House A Go-Go, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a breakfast place that went in there not too long ago. But the one that's right there behind Famous Dave's, you know, that one, and then we got Lone Star across the street that's been, that one baffled me. But anyway, so here's what I would say that I would feel comfortable, because I think there's questions here, and I appreciate that you're trying to answer the questions. I think that we need somebody here that can answer some of these other questions, to be honest with you. What has been done? Why haven't things been fixed in the past? Why are we here where we're at now? I don't know that 2.3, as Commissioner Burrows said, I'm not sure that covers what needs to be fixed out there. So I'm making a motion that we bring this back to the next ED&F meeting with somebody else from the organization that can answer the questions that were posed tonight.
Second.
Committee, we have a motion and a second, but before I go there, I do want to check with the clerk to see if there were any written comments received from the public regarding this item.
No comments were received.
Thank you. I asked the clerk if there are any hands raised by the public online who wish to speak.
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Let the record show that you will be given up to 3 minutes to make your comments. Please come to the podium, state your name and city of residence for the record. Let the record show no one stepped forward. Thank you. Committee, we now have a motion to extend this till next ED&F meeting. That was the motion and the second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Question. We've made the vote. Was there an issue with the vote in reference to the timeline? Okay.
No, your next meeting is, we were just trying to clarify here that we believe it's April 28th
Okay.
is your next
I
meeting.
just want to make sure that we have a date specific for the record. Okay. And Mr. Katz, thank you for being here. And we have a number of concerns. I think we would like to have someone here that can explain some of the questions that were raised.
Yes, I understand. I'll assure you that I won't be the one.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. LaSala. Chelsea.
Thank you. Good night.
Think about this thing is silver. I don't think. That takes us to item 4.2, the second item this evening. It's a quarterly investment report for the fourth quarter of 2024. I'll wait for everyone to get seated. Then I'll recognize representatives from our Treasury Department for presentation and remarks. And again, this is for our fourth quarter 2024 report. And just for the committee's knowledge, we put this off for a little earlier reporting because we had a pretty full agenda one evening. So please don't blame this on staff that it's running tardy. The calendar just got pretty full, but they're here to make the presentation none the same. We voted on both of them. Yes. Yes. So 4.2, this one is just for information only. We won't be making, both of these are for information only. That's all they are. So we won't need any more. Our action, board action is done for the evening outside of hearing the presentations. Ladies, please.
Good afternoon, Michelle Wooten, Deputy Treasurer Cash Manager. I have Shelley Knieven here. I have Debbie Johnsher and Andrea Vineyard here to present our fourth quarter 2024 investment report. Again, this is for information only. Per the Unified Government Cash and Investment Policy, that's why we're here to present to you today.
Yeah, could you speak into the microphone, please? Pull it a little closer.
There we go. How about that?
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. Our average yield was 3.02%. We're down, days to maturity, 100 days down from third quarter of 57 days to maturity. Our portfolio components, cash is at 64%, invested is at 36%. Average yield, 3.02% down from third quarter, 3.17%, below our target T-bill benchmark of 4.16%. And our total interest earned for quarter four was 1.8 million, ending 2024 with 15.8 million. And just this time last year in 2024, we were presenting interest of 6.5 million. So we're on an incline of interest being earned. Our target benchmarks limits relating to maturity exceed the cash and investment policy guideline for the 0 to 12 months category.
If I may, Andrea Vineyard, County Treasurer, just to speak a little more about that. We want to point out that these benchmarks are definitely not set by anything but ourselves. So they are guidelines, which also include, our market value, total interest, the rates that we may dictate to exceed or decide when we're investing for a ladder effect between 1 to 4 years. So if we take out the 202 million she alluded to that's sitting in that cash account, we're actually getting more towards 62%. Our range for this is actually 30 to 60%. So on top of that, taking out 202 million, we also have a few more maturities coming in June that were part of the pandemic, which were long-term investments at less than 1%. So between now and the next time we come and report, it will go back in compliance. We're also looking to see how we report with considering, new CFO, how that cash component is in that reporting. It kind of skews the rates altogether. So we are looking to see how we better report to that specific item. But again, it's a target, it's a benchmark, it is not a requirement by state statute by any means.
Sandra. Type of securities in our investment portfolio. Of the 314 million total, we have 55 million or 17% in CDs, fully collateralized per investment policy. And state statute, 58 million or 19% is in U.S. agencies. We also like to report during quarter four, we did have some maturities. There you'll see we had 3 that matured with Commerce Bank. And that is the end of our presentation. We can answer any questions you may have if we can.
Committee, any questions? The interest rate for this quarter, like you said, is down to 3.02 from 3.17. I just want to make sure I'm communicating that right. That we have still brought in more interest this last year than I can think of in the time that I have been here. And that's due to the interest rates going back up when we had 0 rates for the longest time. And the metrics that we put in place are our own metrics in which that you're evaluating this portfolio on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, Andrea Vineyard, County Treasurer. 10 years ago today, we were only at about $535,000 in interest. So between, staff policy procedure, reviewing of those limits, I think it's really helped us better review how we handle the investment as a whole.
Well, I can say as a commissioner that $15 million is roughly about 8 to 9 mills for us as we think about opportunities to utilize dollars that haven't been available in the past. So it's good to see these certificates paying off at a higher rate. Are we going to see higher rates as we rebid these certificates and deposits?
We're actually going, as some are maturing, we're going out for bid, open to all of our, active investors. Right now, we're still waiting for a few more that I said that were going to be maturing in June. We're kind of bidding based on how those come in. As you saw, 3 of those were matured in March. 3 more will come in June as well.
Great, thank you. These weighted average yields of like 0.47, I'm looking at, I'm sorry, the Argentine Federal Savings Loans and the smaller institutions that have smaller deposits. Is that because of the smaller deposits that the rates are that much lower?
The smaller ones, sorry, Andrew Vineyard County Treasurer, we go out for bid also for those that may not want to fit the full large portfolio and they just want to stay under that FDIC rule. So those very small ones allow them to still be part of our portfolio, being in our community.
So are we losing money by going out to them that pay a lower interest rate versus putting more dollars towards a financial institution that is operating within the FSLIC to ensure that we are getting all the return on our investment that we can get?
No, we always make sure we have an active bid process that meets the need for what we're looking for, and we don't accept anything below that.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it very much. Ms. Knieven.
Shelley Knieven, CFO. So as a reminder, this is the report that ends December 31st, 2024. And so we did go out to bid for the 15 million that they had mentioned had expired. And then we went ahead and did a bid for the March ones so that we got ahead of it while the interest rates were good. And we were able to get about a 4% interest rate, as I recall, ladies.
That is correct.
So we did go ahead and invest that. You know, we don't have anything else until next September, but I just wanted to share, we went ahead and reinvested that 15. It just didn't happen in the report time period. Then we also went ahead and advanced doing 2 months overlap. We did the reinvestment of the 10 million we knew was expiring because we were getting such good rates. And we knew the market was fairly volatile.
Wonderful. So we would have a penalty if we needed that 15 million. Because you've invested it, I'm assuming it would be a 1 year? Because are you tiering these CDs?
We're tiering, yes.
Yes.
I think we did a 2-year and and then a 1 year. We didn't go much further. It wasn't.
Yeah, with the rates the way they are, it's kind of risky to go too far out.
Talk here in a minute about in the financial quarterly report for year end. It has a list of all the investments if you wanted to look at that. And we do have a number of CDs with Commerce Bank that will be expiring at the end of 25, in December of 25. And those were done at a time where we did do a 4-year, and it backfired on us a little bit because the rates came up so much, and those were only at 1.12. So we have some opportunities to make some ground, but we were locked in for that period of time.
I think that's important for us as we start going through the budget process to look at additional revenue that we will have available that hasn't been available in the past. Ladies, thank you. Committee questions? Commissioner Burns.
Yeah. Shelley, were you referring to page 9? I think our booklets are the same, bank balances and investments.
Yes.
You were? Okay. I see in there, although the investments were lower, that it looked like the banks in Wyandotte County were given better interest rates than some of the, than Commerce or UMB Bank.
There are statutes that govern who we can do investments with, as well as the rates that we can accept. So all of these comply with those state statutes.
I see
They have to have a physical.
30 Bank, which has a lot of banks around, they had a $10 million investment at 4.2. And if you go to Commerce, or Capital Federal, they were 4.4. Is Capital Federal in the Wyandotte County or is it metro-wide?
Have a physical location in Wyandotte.
Okay.
And some of this relates to, there's a couple of different things that are done. Sorry, Shelley Knieven, CFO. Couple of things that are done that we compare. And when we did that specific investment that you're talking about, that was a 1-year investment. And we did divide it between 2 different institutions because in our policy, we also tried to diversify who we invest with. And so that was part of that. But if you look at page 9, so the redemption date of 9/11/25, so those were bid on the same day. And we had Argentine, which was at 4.875. They specifically said, we can't do more than the 10 million. I would have probably put the whole amount with them in their bid. But we went then with the next highest group for the additional 5 million. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. It was, they couldn't do more than the 5 million. And so we put the next 10 million with the group that gave the next best bid, the 4.2. So sometimes it just has to do with what they're willing to take and invest in. But we always try to maximize that while also looking at our policy, make sure we're diversified. We look at the number of years. We've moved away from doing these longer term deals because with a 1 or 2 year, we're just frankly getting a better return than what we had been getting.
Well, I just think that, any financial institution in Wyandotte County, we should try as
Absolutely.
much as we can to invest with, if they can take it.
And we always invite them. There's
Okay.
banks that aren't on this list, but we always notify all of them to encourage and make contact with them, make sure we've got the right contact people, so that we do encourage people to bid on our work.
I just want to make sure that was getting done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stites, and then Commissioner
Heights
Lopez.
District 7. And I think the two Capital Federal locations are at 6,900 state and 7,600 state and KCK. So there you know. I don't bank there, so I wasn't endorsing them. I'm just letting information only. But also, I remember, Andrea, you doing the talking about the invites in a previous meeting where they had made sure that they were reaching out to Wyandotte County banks. And Andrea, if you want to speak on that, that'd be great.
Andrew Vineyard County Treasurer, every year we go out for certification for all Wyandotte County, Bonner Springs, and Edwardsville to entice them to become active in our bidder list. We did that in August. We'll go again and again this summer.
Yeah, thank you very much. And man, keep up the good work. I mean, that's good. So the question, I think, that Commissioner Burrows was saying, so that money that had been invested, and I'm just saying, so the 15 million that we re-upped and reinvested, so that would be, we would not have access to that. I'm just saying, for example, if we wanted to fund, I don't know, sci-fi or tax relief, right? We couldn't use that now because it's already been reinvested, right?
Correct. It's the principle of it is reinvested.
Mhm.
We're getting the interest,
Mhm.
and those are then allocated across all the funds. So the more interest we get, the more that we are able to get a return on that. And if you look in the budget book under the fund statements, you'll see interest earnings as one of the revenues where it applies. Not necessarily every fund, but where it applies.
Okay, so that reaches county and city budget, is that right? On both, on both budgets? Okay, all right, thank you. Good job, Rob.
Lopez.
Yeah, who's our tax attorney? Do we have a tax attorney?
We have a tax advisor, which is through Baker Tilly, and we're out to bid right now on that. And so as part of the services they provide, that may change as we go through that process. But they provide advice to us on all the investments.
Okay,
Whether or not Mike is an attorney or not, I'm not sure, but he's our tax advisor.
what you said, Mike?
Mhm.
Is he here?
It's Mike Garrity.
Yes. That's
Here,
correct.
yeah. Okay, I was just wondering, because I have the tax attorney, and I was asking him, picking his brain too about our stuff, and he has a different kind of opinion a little bit, but, okay, so I just didn't know if we had a tax attorney that, so is advisor, you're saying though, but we don't actually have a tax attorney?
That's right. We have a tax advisor, like an investment advisor, who advises us on how much and so forth. And then we're a little different than a private citizen. We have statutes that really restrict.
No, that I understand, that I get, and my attorney knows that one too, but that's why,
This issue, to answer your question, because I, at a different institution, actually had that come up they have resources within Baker Tilly, actual attorneys, but we just, to what you should invest doesn't require an attorney. It's really more like an investment advisor.
So like a financial advisor? Right. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I will ask the clerk if there's anyone send in written comments in reference to this item.
No comments were received.
Anybody online with a hand raised?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. Committee, this was for information only. There was no action. Ladies, thank you. It was good news to hear that we're making money and not losing money. That's nice to know. And I think part of the next report will also highlight a few things that we've been able to accomplish in the last year. So thank you. Now will you all be making the same presentation moving forward on the next item?
We will vacate. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Welcome to stay.
And she said that with such certainty. Thank you, ladies. You're welcome to join us anytime. This takes us to the last item on our agenda that will be for information only is presentation of the fourth quarter financial report. This is the fourth quarter of 2024, and I believe we still have Shelley Knieven to do introductions, and we will welcome everybody to the committee. It's all yours.
Hey, so again, Shelley Knieven, CFO. I'll let everybody introduce themselves that's had a hand in this. Debbie Johnsher, Deputy CFO.
Reginald Lindsay, Unified Government Budget Director.
Michael Peterson, Unified Government Assistant Budget Director.
Welcome, everyone. Please.
Called up. The PowerPoint. Like that. Would be the one that's horizontal. Unless y'all want me to read you a report. I don't think you need to. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I've done is put together a quick presentation. There is more information in the written report if you would like to review that or if you have any questions tonight or otherwise. But I wanted to simplify this report a bit. It's an important report because we've done one other quarterly report in the recent past. That was for third quarter, which would have been from it would have been from it would have been from August through October. And then this is, well, I'm getting my months all messed up. I apologize. This is fourth quarter. So it's October, November, December. And we did a third quarter report previously, but we hadn't been doing reports for a while simply because we had implemented a whole new financial management system. And so we were working out some of the data organization and that to make sure we were pulling the information correctly. That's still a little bit of a work in process, but it is a lot closer. And so we feel good about the data and information we're providing. This is important because this is going to be a good snapshot of how the year is ending. And what I've done in this presentation is I've taken where the budget started versus where the budget ended. In the detailed narrative report, it also has the mid-year budget amendments that were done. So there's more information there, but just from a high-level perspective, our year-end actual revenue, it was 173.7 million. Our year-end actual expense was 172.2. So it ended up being a positive of 1.5 million. At adoption, and we'll talk through some of the details, but at adoption, we thought we would be a negative 1.48 million. So the good news about the city general fund is from adoption to year end, not in respect to the mid-year. But from adoption to year end, it ended up more positive, and I'll talk about in detail why that is. On the county side, you can see the numbers are 83.6 million for the revenue. The expenses were 87. Just as a quick reminder, that particular fund, when we adopted, we had a structurally imbalanced budget in 2024. So at adoption, we knew it was going to be negative by about 2 million, and it ended up being a negative 3.4. So the county general fund continues to be the area that we struggle with the most. The Parks Combined Fund, you can see the numbers of 9.5 million and 9 million for revenue expense for a net positive change of 363. When the budget was adopted, we thought it would be a negative 183, and you'll see these reminders on a couple of slides. And then for the dedicated sales tax, it was 14.8. We budgeted 16 million to start spending down some of our fund balance because that's primarily capital funding, and then police and fire, some personnel, but there's also capital expenses in their allocation as well. And when we had started with the budget adoption, we thought it would be a negative 3.2. So again, ending well. A couple of more details about each one of these funds. So the general fund, just a reminder, and I spent quite a bit of time explaining this when we did the third quarter report, but the general fund includes at adoption a $10 million allocation that is related to the STAR bonds and the way a particular STAR bond was done that requires us to budget a revenue and then we offset it as an expense because we're required to demonstrate it by auditors that we have the funding, but we know we won't have the expense because we have adequate funds in the STAR bonds state account. So it's more of an illustration. It actually ends in a couple of years, which I feel like will be better because it really skews the picture for the general fund. But just to highlight that, so you would see that in the adopted budget on the revenues as well as on the expenses. And then at the year end actual, they're removed because the money wasn't really there and we did not use it. So again, it's an accounting treatment. It's a little bit confusing, frankly. There's more details in the written report about that. But if you take the $10 million out at budget adoption, the revenues would have been 169. So then you can compare that to the year-end actual of 173, and you can see that our actuals ended up better than what it would have been, okay? Because that 179, again, includes $10 million that we don't actually set aside. So it turned out better primarily because of sales tax, which was higher than what we budgeted. Sales tax has been very challenging to forecast. I will share with you that I've asked the accounting department, they now have an accounting by month of the sales tax receipts in total that we've gotten all through 24. And then they've given me January, February, and soon to be March. So I can track and see what's really happening, particularly with what's going on at the national level of whether or not the tariffs will have an impact, whether or not job stability, the federal layoffs, grants being pulled back, all those things. And I'm tracking that a little more closely than what we typically have done, just to see what we can glean from that data. And we'll share that information with you as well. The BPU pilot was approximately 746,000 less. If you remember in the 25 budget, because again, this is 24, we had originally budgeted that as an expense for, in particular, for the seniors exemption, the waiver for the BPU pilot. And actually, it affects our revenue. So we've reduced our revenue for 25, but it hadn't been adjusted yet here. So that's why that shows that it was lower. It's we just had it under expenses as opposed to a smaller amount on revenue. Franchise taxes were lower by about $1 million, and we're researching that as to why. Charges for services were more, and that typically relates to what kind of development applications we have submitted. And then we did have some reimbursement for some insurance proceeds related to the flood that occurred, I believe, in this building. On you question? Okay, so on the expense side, as you all know, we've talked a lot about this here, that we budget based on a personnel trend for salaries and benefits. And we do our best to estimate that. And for the city general fund at budget adoption, it was 133. By the time the year-end estimates were put together, it was 135.2. So it did come in over, and we're looking at ways to strategize about that. We have calculated what the cost would be to budget 100% of personnel. And it's not something we frankly can afford right now, but we have looked at that so we can set a goal towards how do we move towards that. But a lot of that is dependent upon revenues and how revenues come in. And again, for 25, not 24, but we were at revenue neutral, so that had an impact. But it is something that's very much on radar as to looking at how can we budget closer, how can we manage our hiring process differently, and then try to get those closer together. You can see what the other changes were, but in total, our expenses were 172 million. You can see at the bottom there. So when you net out the additional we got in revenue versus our expenses, we were a positive 1.5. So again, a budget adoption, we thought that we were structurally imbalanced, meaning our new revenue was less than our new expenses. And we were using 1.4 million of the fund balance. By the time that the final numbers were in, higher revenue helped to offset that, primarily in the area of sales tax. And so we ended up positive. So that's a kind of a recap. Our year-end fund balance was 35.1 million, almost 35.2, which is about 20% when you take the STAR bonds out. So our goal is 25%, but we're at 20% as of year-end 24. For the county general fund, again, this is one that is struggling more primarily because it has less revenue from diverse sources. It doesn't have a BPU pilot. It doesn't have it doesn't have the franchise fees. So there's a number of things that don't go to the county general fund. They're on the city side. So it's very property tax dependent. And on the county side, the property taxes were down by about 2.3 million from budget adoption to actuals. Again, in the written report, you can see what the mid-year adjustments were as well. We also saw intergovernmental. You can see there it goes up from 60,000 up to $2.4 million. What that is a one-time adjustment due to ARPA. So we had the revenue replacement money that was originally identified for grant match. That was 1.4 million of this amount. And through the reallocation process, we decided to put that towards fund balance, trying to put this towards fund balance. And then we also had money set aside for the tuberculosis outbreak. And so the state came in and started doing the work. And so our local funds, we use some of our local funds, but not all of them. And so in total, we have about 2.2 million that's in there from ARPA that helped to shore up this fund. You can see simple math there that had we not had that money, we would be in a worse position at the bottom line net revenue. Okay, so it's a one-time fix, but that's not money that goes from year to year. Just, as you all know, when we worked on the 25 budget together. So in terms of the fund balance, so that's been updated with the 23 ACFR and how it carried forward because the 23 actual numbers were finalized, so those numbers are plugged in. And so at budget adoption, we thought we'd be at 8.5. By the time the budget projections are for year end, we're at 7.1. And that's a little more than $1 million, about $1.3 million difference. I do want to clarify, I think I said in one of our budget workshops that it was down to $1 million, and I misspoke. The difference is about $1.3 million between the two. So just in case anybody heard that, digested it, kept it in their mind, I may have misspoke on that. So I wanted to clear that up. In terms of the Parks Fund, So the Parks Fund was pretty close to actuals in terms of a little bit more in property tax, in terms of motor vehicles. There was more that came in, which is also taxes. In the budget book, just a clarification too, in the budget book, if you look at any of these funds, you're going to see one lump sum for taxes. And so I've started breaking it out between the types of taxes because I think it's helpful to see property versus sales, for example. That's, I think, important given revenue neutral or sales tax being so volatile. So you can just kind of see how those numbers are changing. On the expense side, the park department underspent their budget, even though during mid-year, there was an adjustment for capital outlay, and that was reauthorizing, I believe it was the Wyandotte County Park Lake Wall. I'm going from memory here, but it was a couple of capital projects that weren't included in the adopted budget through the mid-year budget adjustment were reappropriated from fund balance and moved. So in terms of the total bottom line, new revenue versus expenses because they underspent in parks, mostly on salaries and benefits, which means that they had vacancies below even what we had for the trend. They ended up with a positive 363. And so their fund balance goes up to about 2.7 million as opposed to where we thought it would be at budget adoption of 2.2. So this one's better, city general fund better, parks better, the county not better. Dedicated sales tax. So this is one that we still need to do some work on because we do rollover funds for capital projects. So if there's a capital project approved in the budget but not yet done, we will move those dollars to the project account, and that has not been done yet for this particular fund. It won't be a significant difference. You can see under capital outlay, budget adoption had 7.5 million, and final budget is at 6.9. And so it won't necessarily be a substantial change, but we know that we have not done the rollovers and trued that up in this estimate as of doing this report. So that's some of the work that's underway and will be part of the audit when it is done. Revenue turned out better for sales tax, just like on the city side, sales tax was up. As far as the expenditures, as I mentioned, it's down. However, that is likely to change. This is one of the funds that's not yet, as of putting this report together, it's still a little bit in flight because as we close out the books with the auditors, we'll move those project funds. We had already done that for the city and county, but we hadn't done that yet for dedicated sales tax. So that might change some. But the end of year fund balance is at 5.8 million, which is 36%. So again, this is 24. And so if you pull out your 25 budget and look at it, you'll see that we used more of that fund balance to bring that down in 25. We appropriated some of that money. So, you know, this is a point in time, but then there's things that happened in 25 that affect some of these numbers. So cash and investment. So a lot of what Andrea and Michelle were providing to you, they typically summarize what was done during the quarter as opposed to the full picture. This gives you a little bit more. I noticed earlier today that my chart title was not updated. I apologize for that. That should have said 12/31/24, not 9/30. The numbers are right. I just didn't catch the title being updated. But this gives you, as of December 31st, on that day, we had 285 million in cash, which, as an aside, and this goes to some of like, what do we invest versus what do we keep in cash? So in December each year, we will have a higher cash balance because people paid their first payment of their property taxes, but we don't disperse that until January. Okay, we do get to earn interest on that, but there's some requirements when we have to disperse. So our cash will always be higher in December. And then you can see the breakdown of the other funds to show you the total of the employee health insurance fund, which is what pays for our self-health insurance, self-funded health insurance. So when claims come in, we actually pay those out of this fund. And then our CDs, our agency and treasuries for a total amount as of December 31st of $415 million. So that changes throughout the, well, honestly, throughout the day, but it changes throughout the year. But this gives you a snapshot of where we were in terms of the total. The interest that Andrea and Michelle had reported, I believe was I believe was exclusive of it was on just the investments. When you take the percentages of interest on all of the funds, the average is 3.4, so it's a little bit lower if those numbers are off a little bit, because one is really focused on what happened that quarter versus what's happening. This is as a snapshot on December 31st. We're going to have a session on April 3rd to go into more depth about our outstanding debt and then the principal and interest payments. So this is just a synopsis for you to just get a sense of how much we're spending in terms of our debt, principal and interest payments on an annual basis from various funds. And we're going to spend more time on April 3rd talking through that because it's part of our debt strategy. So with that, I'm glad to answer questions you might have, but that just gives you kind of a quick overview. This is not audited, but we feel pretty confident with some of the disclaimers I gave that these numbers are very close to what you will see in the audit. So we've been able to get back caught up, that you all know, and have reminded me and the team. We were behind on 22 and 23 on the timing. We're back caught up. So 24 ended December 31st. We started immediately on working with the auditors, and that audit will be done by June, which is the normal timeframe. And we feel that this presentation captures a great majority. There's going to be a few changes, but a great majority of the picture was really just given to you because we put a lot of effort into that to make sure that it would be fairly reconciled with the audit.
Committee questions. Thank you, Ms. Knieven. I thought I saw Commissioner Lopez and then Mr. Wakes.
Couple questions. Let's talk about, when you were saying, I can't remember what page it was, about the city general fund there, about the flood, the pipe breaking. The insurance, the contractor's insurance paid out on that. Why are we taking a hit on that?
So actually, it was a revenue, which we got a reimbursement for. So it's $309,000 in the city general fund. It just wasn't known at the time when we adopted the budget. We didn't know that happened. We didn't know we'd get a reimbursement. So it's not taking a hit. It added to our expenses are in there, but then we got reimbursed the $309,000.
Awesome, yeah. And then, okay, so it was reimbursed. Let's talk about the fire department. What's going on there as far as their fund?
Well, the fire department is a general fund department, so it's in the city general fund. And then they also have some funds in the dedicated sales tax. About a third of that goes to the fire department. And then there's also the EMS fund, which is not in this report. This just picked out our top 4 biggest that fund a lot of the operations. And so in terms of they're part of the overall picture. I didn't pull, honestly, the EMS, but the dedicated sales tax is in here, which it's in a good position. The city general fund, better position than we thought for 24, but it's not broken out in terms of by department. So for any fund, you take all your revenues, it's pooled together, all your expenses pooled together. In the budget book, though, if you want references, it does break it down there for each department. But in terms of the 24, the main funds they're funded out of are in a good position. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, a little bit. So is that the administrator who watches that as far as the spending?
It's actually the budget team has budget analysts that watch that continually, yes.
So if you've seen the money he's been spending, the chief?
What's your question again?
So you watch the expenditures that go out on the fire department?
Yes.
Have you seen the list of trucks that's being, the pricing on it on the leases?
Yes, on the apparatus, yes, that
No,
is.
no, I'm not talking about apparatus. I'm talking about pickup trucks.
Oh, I can jump in there for a quick second. So we have vehicles for a number of departments that are done through a lease. And we actually just had a meeting this week to take a look at that. Our biggest department is the police department. And we're in a process of analyzing whether or not that is an arrangement that really works for us over the long haul. And if it doesn't, how would we unwind that over time? So that is something that we're looking at. And
Well, definitely take a look at the fire department's pickup trucks. It's very concerning.
Okay.
Very concerning. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Wicks?
Parks Board presented earlier this year regarding the repairs necessary because of the storm. Using the 2024 leftover, is that reflected in the 2024, or will it be reflected in the 2025 budget?
to think of as I recall, we did it as part of the 25 budget because we had to appropriate fund balance because the cost of the repairs didn't hit our deductible.
Thank you.
So the repairs that were made to the cabling on the docks and the roof,
Mhm.
those should be reflected in 24. I believe that I've seen those go through. The one item that they have not done is replace the covered dock, and that was deemed as discretionary, so they would have to re-request that from the commission.
Thank you very much.
Committee, any other questions? Shelley, I'm just looking through some of these numbers. Some of them are very pleasing to see. The others are still in some of theirs, we're still spending past what our budget allows us to spend. And that's where we get into drawing from our reserve. But I want to go back to, I'm looking at page 3, or actually page 2, when it talks about real estate property taxes were slightly more than anticipated. Revenues are approximately 4.3 million higher. Sales tax estimated ended significantly higher, but yet we still had to draw from our reserves. On the county side, city side seems to have found its way to even having a reasonable balance in reserves. I believe that balance is 20%, if I remember reading correctly, which is I think we had a 25% that we put on ourselves at one time, but 20% is still within the norm. But the county one being 8% is of concern, and it should be moving forward that could affect our credit rating overall. So it sounds like we've got some issues within the county budget, because if our revenue is at 102%, but we're spending 104% of it, we're already overdrawn. But are we presenting budgets that are not balanced to the commission? Or how is that working? Because I know a capital project can be held over to the next year and it shows up, but we should have that historical figures in place to be able to address that.
Sir, so Shelley Knieven, CFO. So for 2024, okay, both the city and county were structurally imbalanced, meaning both of them tapped into the fund balance at adoption. So that would have been a decision made at the time by the commission adopting that budget. It turned out that on the city side, because we had additional revenue, it right-sided itself. And then on the county side, it went the other direction. And there's a lot at work in these numbers, honestly. We continue to see, you can see it for both the city and county, that our personnel and salaries costs exceed what we have originally budgeted. We've budgeted a trend. There's a whole methodology the budget department uses. When it comes to salaries and benefits, you have to pay it. If it's incurred, you have to pay it. You can't legally not pay it. And so it's all a matter of managing that trend. But yes, at budget adoption, both of those were upside down. But, you know, as I said, we made progress, okay, in some ways, and then we're still struggling on the county side. And the biggest differential, if you look at budget adoption to year end, it really is in that personnel, salaries and benefits. And if you think about during the budget process, conversations we had with the sheriff's office, a huge amount of that overage has to do with the jail and under staffing because their positions aren't filled, so they're having to work overtime or their population is up. So that's one of the areas that's pretty volatile, but we know it's an issue. And so it is an area of concern. It's an area that we are watching.
Well, I know there's a number of questions on the 3/8 cents dedicated sales tax. I'm reading it and it says the fund actual revenues were higher than expected at 14.8 million due to sales tax and use tax increases, which we anticipated anyway in our budget discussions, that we've always taken a very conservative 2% growth. And ever since I've been here, sales taxes have exceeded that. So, but then I see that estimated year-end rollover of capital funds has not been completed, and we are at 16 million in the budget. So we purposely set ourselves up to overextend ourselves within that 3/8 cent sales tax budget.
Shelley Knieven, CFO. So one of the things that has been a strategy over the last several years as I looked at it and understand it is that our fund balance in that particular fund was too high. Here it calculates out to be 36%. So we only need 25 maximum. And so there was an effort to start spending down some of that fund balance, different than the other funds, different situation. So we were intentionally structurally imbalanced, I guess, because we were intentionally spending down some of the fund balance. And then the revenue came in better with the sales tax being up.
Well, if we're holding on to reserves above our policy limits that we set for ourselves, we're either not funding something, or we should put those monies to put somewhere into salaries, back out a capital project. There's ways to move that money in to bring that down to make sure that we free up cash as to what we need to do to pay our financial obligations. And I know I'm not speaking a foreign language to you all. I may not be speaking it properly, but if we're going to spend down those funds, if it's a 25, we have 11% funding reserves that we could go in to cover the cost of personnel within our personnel, or in the police and fire, or we could use that money to pay personnel and back out what we pay on the city side in personnel and buy the equipment that we've talked about, or build the fire stations that we need, and it's still related to fire and police. And those are some of the things that some of us look at. So I just wanted to look at why we estimate one, but still continue to overspend and not find out where we are spending it to get the return on that investment.
This is Michael Peterson, Deputy Budget Director. I just wanted to point out, so you specifically mentioned the County General Fund expenditures earlier, being over budget. I just want to point out that this budget that's on the PowerPoint is the original budget, not the amended budget. So on the report itself, you will see the amended budget, and we were under budget compared to the amended budget that was passed by the commission this summer. Also, for dedicated sales tax specifically, that was one that we were very conservative on through COVID because we were not sure what the sales taxes would do with the pandemic. So we did build up a high fund balance. And in the past several years, we have been spending that down. There has been, just with transition on ERP and just some of the processes that we've been working through, there have been some capital projects that haven't gotten spent that have prevented us from spending it down completely, but we are working to spend that balance down.
Okay.
And you will, this is Debbie Johnsher, Deputy CFO. You will see that if you look on the dedicated sales tax at the year-end audited 23, we had budget, zero budget, $0.6 million. We did reduce that to 0.4. And it looked like.
And took it from reserves?
No, the budget was originally 13.6 million for expenses, and we reduced it to 9.4. So we had a larger fund balance at the end of 2023.
Okay, thank you for that. And these are numbers that we operate off of, same as you, but as we go into the budget, sir, I think this is an education opportunity for us to ask those questions and see how you all are thinking so that we can be partners as we move forward. And Mike, I do appreciate the explanation as to how you set up the city and county funds. I appreciate that. Commissioner Lopez.
You guys brought up a good point about what about the money set aside for Station 20s? What's going on there as far as, last I was told, we're ready to move on it. And, guess, you froze the money to move that, but where are we at with that?
Sure. So, one quick other point on this is through 24. If you looked at the 25 budget, you're going to see us continuing to reappropriate some of the fund balance on the dedicated sales tax. So
Okay.
just remember, this is a point in time and things have happened since. The budget would have been adopted last September. So there's that continual effort to get this right-sized on a fund balance. As far as Station 20 goes, that was a debt project a project to
okay.
be funded with debt. So it's not in these funds. And there was $500,000 authorized, but never actually issued in terms of debt. And we'll go into more detail about this Thursday, but one of the past practices we had was once it was authorized, we would let departments start spending. They had not actually started, but we would let them start spending, but the debt's not issued, which means there's no cash there to do it. Which in essence means then we're cash flowing that amount until we get to the point that we issue debt. There's a ton of risk with that. We had authorized a lot of debt that had we been spending against that, we would be in a difficult position financially. But for that project, so all that had ever been authorized was 500,000, had not been issued, had not been spent. And so with revenue neutral, and the debt reset, we paused all of the debt that was originally envisioned in 25. And there was part of their money for Station 20 that was going to be done originally, if you go back and past budgets, would have been in 25. But because we've got a pause on that right now, that's for additional conversation. And then the rest of their money would have been in 26. So that's just where it stands right now. There hasn't been money for the entire project ever authorized or issued, and so the cash isn't there, but there was a portion that was authorized but not issued, so we would have been in a position to cash flow that. I hope that makes some sense. I know it gets complicated.
No, I'm right with you. I'm just, so we at least could have at least moved the dirt, got ready put forms up, whatnot,
Yeah, for that, it would have
something.
been the design, probably a portion of the design.
I heard that was told that was already to rock and roll. We've got some monkey in a wrench somewhere that,
And
Okay.
there's not even been an RFP to hire a design team. That
Really?
never even started. Mm-mm.
that's interesting.
So I think and I think maybe, I'm going to conjecture for a moment if you'll indulge me, but I think that maybe because there was ongoing discussions about what to design, is it a 4-bay, 2-bay, 3-bay, whatever, that could have been why they were holding, because they didn't want to spend money that then they'd have to redo, which is a prudent thing to do. But as we get to the point of moving forward, we'll need to have you all guide us on that decision, and then to come up with a cost estimate that matches that. And then that would go into our program on debt. And like I said, we'll go into depth on that on Thursday, but just to give a little bit of more information on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk if there are any written comments received from the public.
No comments were received.
Ask the clerk if any hands raised, public online who wish to speak.
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item?
Commissioner Burrows, I do now see a hand raised.
Who is,
It is Dr. Alma Rosas.
okay, Dr. Alma, please, you'll have 3 minutes to speak and you will, to make your comments, please state your name and address for the record, please. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so real quick, I just have a question for my understanding and clarification. The question is, and let me go through my notes. How can you have, UG, how can you have a balance? Okay, how can the UG have an imbalanced budget, and why do you not take the time to balance each other? So I keep hearing that there's a lot of movement from one account to the other to cover several different areas where the budget is at an imbalance. There's an offset. Why does the UG does not let that balance just take time to grow and meet in the middle? So that way we're not out balance and creating more debt. That's my question.
Thank you. We'll have the budget director respond to that, and we'll take that under advisement. I don't know if she's ready to answer it tonight, or if we'll answer it through a call to you from the budget department.
We go into the revenue neutral conversation when we discuss as the summer, when we discuss the revenue neutral piece, which meant that you couldn't do any more debt. We're trying to stay out. So to ensure that does not happen, how can we make sure that we keep those books balanced and stop moving money around? Also, from the previous gentleman that did the presentation, we want to make sure that no more breaks if that contract or that decision that you made
About 1 minute
previously as a
remaining.
UG, we need to make sure that increase that revenue, because at the end of the day, our city, our county continues to drive in and take hits and nothing's being taken care of. We're just bleeding money without solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any other hands raised?
I do not see any other hands raised.
Did she say no? Did you say no other?
No other hands raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this item? Let the record show no one step forward. Committee, that is for information only. Staff, thank you so very much. I know that was a lot of information in these, that you eat, breathe, and sleep these numbers. It takes us a while to go through them, but we want to be partners in this process as we move forward to ensure that we put forward well thought out budgets that meet the needs of our community. With that, I would entertain a motion. That concludes our meeting this evening. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. For those in the audience, please stick around for the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee that will be taking over here shortly. Davis called me and asked me if I would stay.
We're ready when you are.
All right, everyone, we're gonna get started about 2 more minutes. Kind of let us finish visiting and everything, and then we'll be good to go. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments. And to ensure that a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon on the day of the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comment will be allowed during each item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. They should not have any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call the meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee for March 31st, 2025 to order. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Here.
Ramirez, we have an absence memo. Townsend, Bynum, Davis,
Here.
Stites.
Awesome. And thank you, Commissioner Stites, for helping us out in getting a quorum. Deeply appreciated. Okay, so I know we have some revisions to the agenda. And so, Mr. Knapp, can you inform us of those revisions?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Item 4.2, the land bank options. Item A3 was removed. They met with Mount Carmel and determined that there's trash and chemicals inside the dirt, and it would be better if they found a new location. So they're going to come back next month with a new location. A4 was removed because they weren't answering communications from the land bank nor the MBR. So they weren't talking to us. And then A5 was removed. That is CJR Builders. We're going to hold that over till next month so they can have more time to review designs and infrastructure needs of the area. Item 4.5, the land bank hold. There was no neighborhood contact, so they will return next month. And then 4.6 is the Douglas Sumner Land Bank strategy, and they will also return next month. Those are the items that have been removed, Commissioner.
Okay, so quite a bit of changes that we would just get back to at another time. And so, okay, thank you so much. We have no meetings to approve, and so we'll get right into the evening. Our first item on the agenda is the Health Forward grant application. Committee members, you all saw kind of there was a change in the agenda. And so I want to thank our staff, thank the clerk's office, thank our health department for moving very, very quickly. As you all know, anytime grant money and other people's money come in, that is a good sign. And so I want to hand it off to Wesley McCain from our health department to talk about this grant application. Mr. McCain.
Thank you, Commissioner. Wesley McCain from the Health Department. I am the Community Health Manager there. We have, and thanks again for doing this. This is a new environment. Normally I go to the other standing committee, but like Commissioner Davis said, we found out we have built a relationship with the Health Forward Foundation over the last 6 years on our CHIP. And part of our CHIP we've worked on is affordable and safe housing. And they have supported our CHIP through helping to support some staff for it. And then they kind of transitioned to supporting our staff through this housing funding stream. And we normally use the funding stream that this grant is for to help to support some core staff. But we were able to get some funding actually from them through a different mechanism for this. And so we were invited to this opportunity, which is an invitation-only funding stream for this year for 12 months to support affordable housing and homeownership, which is one of the areas that we are trying to focus on our CHIP. And so because we have our staff taken care of, we have this this opportunity to kind of look across the unified government at the work that's happening, the strategies that are in our CHIP, and on a pretty aggressive timeline. We found out about this on March the 14th is when they had the session where we learned about it, and then the application is due on the 9th of April. I'm not, it's up to $75,000. It's the first time they've done this. And so I think, next year and the year after, I think they'll reevaluate and see how much funding will be available. But I'm very much still in the process of trying to figure out exactly what the application is going to be. And that's an interesting situation. Normally, I know exactly what it's going to be, and then I come and I say, here's what we're going to apply for. In this situation, I brought some different options to them, and two that they were really attracted to were supporting in some way the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which was just passed by the Commission on February the 27th. And then the second one was our planning department is going through a comprehensive zoning code update in the summer, and housing is going to be a part of that. And those can be expensive. And also housing analysis, recommendations from other communities, doing the research, doing mapping, that can expand based upon the amount of funding that you have. And so I had some conversations with the planning department, and they said, yeah, this, if there's some funding available for that to help sort of deepen our research on this, do more analysis, look at how our zoning code impacts housing, then we would certainly welcome that. And so, right now it looks like there's be a balance of those two things in the application. But I met with our community development director this morning. We had coffee to kind of talk and see, how that would be. I'm going to meet with others who are kind of managing those programs to help write it. So I wish I had more detail in an application to tell you exactly how the funds are going to be used, exactly for what. But at this point, I'm just very much still in the creating the application phase. But those two programs or those two uses are the two that have kind of come up that both are ones we need and then ones that the foundation is interested in supporting.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Okay, let's get to public comment. Clerk, is any comments been received for this item?
No comments were received.
Okay, any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
For the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to approach the podium? Okay. Please state your name, city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. Rob Gibson, Health Forward Foundation, live in Kansas City, Missouri. I'll be very brief. Just want to offer support for the proposed application from the UG to Health Forward Foundation. Our organization is committed to investing in our service area in our community. We've invested in the CHIP for the last, 5 years from the previous iteration to the current one. And so we're supportive of any efforts the health department and other entities have to utilize our funding to advance the work of the UG, specifically around affordable housing opportunities here in the Wyandotte County area. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, let the record show no one else has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions? Is there a motion?
Bynum, at-large one, motion to approve the resolution to apply and accept the grant from Health Forward.
Second.
Thank you so much. Clerk,
The motion include fast tracked? I
Oh.
think that's the request.
To April 3rd, thank you.
does your second concur, Commissioner Hill? Okay, awesome. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so there was a motion and a second to approve the application and to fast track it to our meeting this Thursday. Clerk, can you get the roll?
Roll call. Hill. Aye. Stites. Aye. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mr. McCain. Okay, let's keep this party moving. Our land bank is up next. Do want to note here, Mr. Sutton, if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving a brief introduction, because we do have some new folks that are on our land bank staff, which is really, really good that we have more staff and more people. So just tell us your position and just how long you've been with the UG so far.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. My name is Michael Sutton. I am the redevelopment coordinator for the UG. I've been with the Economic Development Department now for about 5-6 weeks. Excited to be here. I'm originally from KCK, so ready to help the county and city develop.
Awesome. It is amazing to see us hiring and recruiting from our own folks. And so Mr. Sutton's going to be kind of taking over these land bank applications. So I'll hand it off to you, sir.
Again, thank you, Commissioner. We're going to be looking at 2 options tonight. Item A1 is 714 Orville Avenue. This item was previously held for a concern for combined lots. Our land bank manager stated that he's spoken with the commissioners about it, and that's gotten cleared up. And then we have item A2, which is at 2646 North 20th Street. The OCP actually opposes this one. We've tried to get a hold of the applicant with no success, and OCP has also reached out to them with no success. So yeah, we're having some issues on that one, but that'll be it for the options. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, committee, if you all would just indulge me, I'm going to do public comment, get that out of the way, and then we're going to go ahead and get through these 2 applications. Clerk, was for A1, 714 Orville Avenue, was there any comments sent in for this application?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, for the folks here in the gallery, do anybody like to speak to this item? Okay, go ahead and close the public comment portion. For A2, or any in A2 is 2646 North 20th Street. Were there any comments received for this item?
No comments was received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, for the folks that are here in person, would anybody like to approach the podium for A2? Okay, let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close public comment for A2 as well. Okay, so we have 2 items here. Committee, any questions? I think the main issue, quite frankly, I'm concerned with is A2 if we have an unresponsive applicant. But any questions regarding either of these 2 items? Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve A1, 714 Orville Avenue. Is there a second?
Bynum, second.
Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Stites. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm pretty worried about A2. If we have an unresponsive developer, I don't know what to do there. So I'm going to motion to deny A2. Is there a second? Okay, second by Commissioner Stites. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill. Stites. Bynum. Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, see, Mr. You're already quick study. Look at that. No issues there. Great job. Okay, so we have kind of a list of holds that we're going to go through. Mr. Knapp, I'll hand it off to you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So the next one is 4.3. That's the land bank hold for the Quindaro ruins. This has always been a hold for the last 4 or 5 years. We're just making it official right now that we're going to hold this. The boundaries are basically 635 north. There's 34 land bank parcels in there. That's summary of the item.
Okay, let's do public comment. Clerk, any comments for this item?
No comments was received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
For the folks here in the gallery, would anybody like to approach? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions or is there a motion?
Bynum, move to approve.
Davis, second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Stites. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes, the next hold is 4.4. It's the land bank hold for 61st and I-70. This is, it totals 33 acres and there's 4 parcels there. This hold would be to give staff time to do an RFP to develop this property for single-family homes.
Thank you so much. All right, let's do public comment. Clerk, any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
For the folks here in person, anybody like to approach? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, I'm really excited that we are identifying what is on hold because that was not past processes. And so we are doing this for the sake of transparency, so the public knows, so everyone knows. And of course, this will be reported on annually for the land bank. Is there a motion for this item?
At large one, so move.
Davis, second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Stites. Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the USD 500 item was removed. The Douglas Sumner neighborhood land bank strategy was also removed. And so that takes us to our last item on the agenda, which is what I am personally very excited about, which is our land bank update. This is for information only, and it's really to really be a first brush for us tracking our progress and getting data on how the land bank has performed. And so committee colleagues, if you all have other ideas on what other data metrics we need to be measuring for staff to keep in mind, please do. Now is the time to give those comments and that feedback. But with a brief presentation, Mr. Knapp, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So this is because of the new policy that was approved last year that I will have to give an annual update every year. I've received several questions from commissioners and the presentation is answering those questions. The first question was how many land bank lots are in each city? See that Edwardsville has 6, Bonner Springs is 19, and the rest are in Kansas City, Kansas, to give us a total of 4,444 lots. This is a slide over time. We see the properties from the sales, from tax sales, and we see that 24 and 25, we had 1 in 2024 and 0 so far this year. So that means our inventory is actually going down. During the policy updates and meetings, it was, we need to get rid of these lots. So I'm very happy that the inventory is actually decreasing. We do see in the land bank sales by year 2025, we already have 23 completed options. If we keep going at this rate, we might hit 100 this year. So it's pretty exciting news. The other question was, how many completed options do we have by year? I have to say 24 and 25 are just completed options that match the graph before. But the graph before also had 2022 sitting at 48. It kind of scared me for a second. Then I went back and seen what other sales we did that year. So I have 2022 land bank sales. We had 18 options, 7 rehabs. I have to say the rehab program used to be, we're not getting any new homes in the rehab program. The rehab program is almost gone. And then we had 14 for a garden and a park, 14 lots that went, and then we had 6 yard extensions in 2022 to add up to that 48 on the previous slide. Another question we had is how many land bank lots per district? The districts, District 1 and District 4 are definitely the ones that have the most land bank lots in them. I went ahead and added the completed options per district also, and the number of signed options that we have in each district. All right, so this is a map of all the completed options. Now, completed options means the applicant has provided me a building permit and provided me proof of funds, and I have then transferred the property to them. So the land bank does not own these properties anymore. We had 113 single-family homes, 8 multifamily, and 8 garages. This data does go back to 2020. We don't do garages anymore. And we had 7 commercial for a total of 136 completed options. The next one is approved options status. That is basically full commission has said yes, but they haven't signed an option agreement with us. In the last month, we have really went through and cleared out a bunch of these that never signed their option agreement. So we still have 83 that have left to sign. And I do have to say, with our new policy, this was an issue. They have 45 days to sign this agreement after they get full approval from full commission. So that will help me out a lot. Signed options. We have a total of 451 of them. In the last month too, we also worked on extending them. We have been not keeping the expiration date up to date, but I didn't think it was fair to cancel those people that have been building or working on building without giving them knowledge that they would have to come back here because the new policy states that I can extend the option once for a total of 2 years. If they want longer than that, they have to come back here. So we're working on clearing those out of the system. Canceled options, we have 95 of them. They canceled them because they hit their expiration date and didn't build, or they indicated to me that they did not want to build. Another question we received was like, what is the success rate of land bank applications? So first, the outlier here is garages at 62%. That 62 this was back before I kept track of what was canceled. I haven't kept track what was canceled for the first 2 years of my job here. But single family homes, we have 113 completed options, and so that's a success rate of 20%. So to dive into this a little deeper, for completed option for single family homes, So I looked at the data, and the people that have built one home, there's 26 of them. And the people that have built more than one, there's 110 of them out of that total of 136. So that's like 80% of the completed options were built by people that wanted more, that built more than one. I do have like a top 4 list of completed options by builder. These total like 70, and that equals like 50% of the total options. So basically what we could say is that builders are building and people that are coming just to build one aren't as successful. And I do have to say during COVID, people couldn't find a house, so they were coming to the land bank as an option. And I think they found out it was harder to build a house than they anticipated, and they just walked away. So, and then I'm going to talk about holds. We have the Tremont project is the only official hold we have right now. And then Peregrine Falcon is going to be on the agenda on Thursday to make that one official, so we get an RFP for it. And it's a list of our holds. And then our staff is what I'm really excited about. We have Megan Smith. She came from Parks, but she also brought the mowing program with her. The land bank will now manage the mowing of all vacant lots for UG owned and land bank. I've been mowing season starting in April. So we've been working really hard to automate her processes, and hopefully what we built and will make her job a lot easier to give her some more time to help with land bank items like to finish out the rehab program. So really excited about that. Michael Sutton next to me, we're very excited to have him here to help run the land bank. Tiffany Portley is our customer service superstar. And then me. Commissioner, that's my presentation.
Thank you so much. Very helpful to get us started, which again, we've never done anything like this before, where we're getting some hard data and just us really kind of taking a step back from the work that we're doing. Okay, clerk, any comments for this item?
No comments were received.
Any hands raised online?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, for folks here in the gallery, would anybody like to provide public comment for this item? Let the record show no one has approached. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee questions. Yes, Commissioner Hill.
I don't have a question. I would just like a copy. I don't have a copy of the chart that showed the number of land bank parcels according to districts. And I also didn't get one on the land bank success rate. I just need those 2 pieces. That's it.
Awesome.
I'm really appreciative of the report. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Knapp, I know you updated, so the original presentation wasn't updated, so there was some new data and stuff, but staff, if you all can just send out that report to the committee, that would be great. Other questions? Again, this is an item for information only. Yes, Commissioner Stites.
Stites District 7. Judd, thanks for the presentation. Welcome aboard, Mr. Sutton. When you said we don't do garages anymore, what did you mean? What does that mean?
When I first started, we created the option program, and people figured out pretty quickly that it was a loophole, that they can get the lot next to them if they applied for a garage.
They would apply.
If they applied for a garage, if they said that they were going to build a garage, because I would always say you have to build something to get the lot. Our policy was, I'm not going to sell a buildable lot as a yard extension. So people figured out pretty quickly that they could get a building permit for not much money and get the lot next to them and not build the garage.
We didn't have any kind of recourse on that? Is that, I mean, can somebody now get a lot? So somebody can't get a lot now and build a garage?
The new policy change that was adopted in December, we can give yard extensions now. And I expect that to start happening like June 2nd's meeting, that we'll start seeing yard extensions coming through.
But is it more palatable for somebody to say, I mean, for us to not just do a yard extension, but to actually have a physical structure built on something, right? I mean, I would think that we would want to see, something that is being built on a lot, right?
Yes, I would. Finance would love to see the tax revenue from a garage versus a vacant lot.
So, I mean, I don't know, this, maybe if this is something for legal, but how would we put something in there that if you don't, if in 1 year, you know, if, of the, getting a building permit, if you don't build your garage, you know, it reverts back.
That's how it was originally, and then it was changed when we did the last policy, and that's what, the commission voted for, is they would rather see these people be able to get yard extensions. And if they want to get the yard extension and still build a garage on it, they absolutely can, if it fits within our code. I mean, there are some, regulations as to whether or not you can build like a separate, garage unit, depending on what your zoning is. So you could still, there's still ways you can build a garage on the yard extension if you got one. It was just, we were finding where people wanted yard extensions, but they didn't really want to build a garage. They just wanted the yard next to them because they were using the space anyway, and they were maintaining it, some of them for years. And we wanted to be able to change the policy to where, people that had been maintaining these lots for years and years were able to go ahead and take ownership of the lots. So that's why it changed.
In no way at all am I saying people shouldn't get yard extensions,
Mhm.
right? I'm just thinking of a way that somebody, do most yard extensions get approved?
So actually, we, as of recent, we've been a little bit, right now, I will say we are less restrictive regarding yard extensions. But in the past, particularly the time that you were on NCD, it was a complete no. It was, you have to build a home, you have to build a structure on it. So right now, there's still interest out there, but we really haven't seen what the current market is, because for the past couple of years, we've pretty much prohibited it via the policy.
Yeah, I'm all for getting that 4,444 number down to 0, right? That's what I'm for. But I would like to see, maybe these folks be able to, not that they can't, that they can still build a garage on there. That's when you said we don't do garages, that's why I was like, wait a second. Didn't really make a lot of sense. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Yes. So yeah, folks can still apply. They can still do the garage. You don't have to do a garage in order to get a yard extension. And that's because some areas are unbuildable. And of course, for UG, we have a hard time maintaining those particular properties. If you do this, just for education purposes, per the new policy, if you do get a yard extension, you have to combine it with your home with the existing lot so that it is one lot. And so that is one particular mandate that we have.
Then that changes the parcel number. The parcel number all then becomes all inclusive of the new lot. Got it.
Yep. Okay. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you very much, Bynum at large one. Judd, back to the PowerPoint, please. There's a slide that shows parcels transferred into the land bank by tax sale. Yes, and the one beside it, land bank sales by year. So does that mean land bank parcels by year that were transferred to a private owner? Is that what that graph is telling us?
Yes.
And so the reason probably partly for the drop is because around 19 is when we went to the option program, other than just deeding over land bank lots.
Yes, Commissioner. In 2020 is when we we stopped yard extensions.
Was because, as Commissioner Stites was saying, we want to disperse of these lots, but we wanted homes to be built. So, and then now we're kind of inching back up with the option program, it looks like to me, slowly but surely. Is there any, I think you gave us this as we worked our way through 2 years of policy work. At some point in the future, the homes that have been constructed on the land bank options that have been provided, if we could see a tally of the revenue generated, the taxes that are now being collected as a result of having homes on those parcels at some point in the future.
Okay, I will add it to the list.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Awesome. Any other questions, committee? Okay. All right. Appreciate the patience. Okay, this is the last item of our agenda. We appreciate everyone for indulging. Again, this will happen every year, and so other commissions, other committees, right, the public will be able to indulge in this, and it will keep evolving as we move forward. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All right. The second was Commissioner Hill. Awesome. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Stites, Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.